Today we're going to continuing to work on writing linear equations. This is part 2. Today they're going to give you a little bit different information. Today they're going to give you a point and the slope. So remember, if we're going to write an equation in slope-intercept form, it needs to be in this format where we're going to fill in for the slope and for the y-intercept. So we need to find the slope and we need to find the y-intercept. This is a nice one. We see that we start off, they've already provided us the slope. So we know what the slope. So we can improve on this template. We can put this information. Now B stands for the y-intercept. We don't have the y-intercept. We have a point, but that point doesn't go through the y-axis. It is located in quadrant 2, right? So it's somewhere over here, -5, 4. This is quadrant 2, quadrant 1, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. It's not, right? We want a point that goes through the y-intercept. It has to be on the y-axis. So what we want to do is, can we fill in for the other variables? We can't fill in for B right at the moment. So can we fill in for these other two variables, x and y? Well, remember that x and y is a point, and we just happen to have a point here. So if we use this point, we have an x and a y. So let's fill that information in. Our y value is 4. We have our slope that we know, and our x value is -5. So knowing that, let's move this over here. Let's simplify. So -3/7 times -5, we know that a negative times a negative is going to provide us a positive. And then remember, that's 5/1, -5/1. So we have -3 times -5 is +15. 7 times 1 is 7. And now we want to solve. We're left with only one variable. So let's isolate B. If we subtract 15/7, subtract 15/7, and we should convert fourths into sevenths. How many sevenths is equal to 4? Well, 7 times 4 is 28. So if we have 28/7 minus 15/7, that should give us 13/7. See? Do it in your head. It's not a good thing. Mr. Mac should be using a calculator. 13/7 equals B. Now we have our y-intercept. So we can go back to our equation here, and we can fill in for the other missing piece that we need. Remember, we're filling in for the slope and for the y-intercept. So my final answer for this equation would be y equals -3/7 x plus 13/7. Good? Let's try another one. Here's our beginning template, y equals mx plus b. Let's fill in what they've given us. They've provided us the slope, which is -1/5 x. We're still looking to fill in for b, so we have to fill in information. So instead of writing y, we're now going to write 2 instead, and we have the slope, which is -1/5. Instead of writing x, we're going to write -5 and then plus b. So we have 2, we have -1 times -5 is +5 over 5 times 1, which is 5. 5/5 would give me 1. So we know that if we multiply -1/5 times -5/1, negative times a negative is a positive, 5/5 equals 1. Okay, that's how I got that +1 over here. And now we're going to isolate for b, and we're left with 1 equals b. This is my y-intercept. So let's finish this equation. -1/5 b, -1/5 x plus 1 is my equation. Here's a problem that you can try. So what I'd like you to do is to refer back to those notes, do whatever you need to do, but pause the video, work on this problem, show your work, try it out. Once you have an answer, you can unpause the video, and then we will go over the answer. So the answer is y equals 5/6 x plus 7/6. So again, we are provided the slope, an x value and a y value. So our x is 1, our y is 2. We're going to plug those in. We're going to simplify that right side. 5/6 times 1 is 5/6. We're going to subtract 5/6 from both sides, negative 5/6, meaning we're going to subtract. Don't subtract a negative, that would be bad. And then we're going to convert 2 into sixths. So 2 is equal to 12/6, and then we have 12/6 minus 5/6, which is 7/6. And that provides us with our intercept. So we plug in our y-intercept, plug in our slope, and we end up writing an equation in slope-intercept form for that information. The last one that we're going to do is when we're provided 2 points. So a little bit more different. Remember, well, not a little bit different, we just have to find another piece of information. Our equation is in this. We have to find the slope and the y-intercept. In the problems before, they gave us the slope. In this one, we have to find the slope. So that's our first step, is find the slope. Well, when you're given 2 points, you're going to use y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Remember, slope is rise, and when we rise, we go up and down on the y-axis, over run. And when we run, we go left and right on the x-axis. So we have these 2 points. We should label them. I always like doing that. That's x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. That's the easiest way to do it. And then when you look at your template, you see you have y sub 2. So we look at our y sub 2 as negative 2 minus our y sub 1. Our y sub 1 is 4 over x sub 2, which is 4, minus our x sub 1, which is 0. Negative 2 minus 4 gives us negative 6. 4 minus 0 is 4. And then we would always want to reduce. So we just found our slope. We can improve this equation a little bit. We can write a new piece of information in it, fill it in. We're looking to fill in those 2 important pieces. Now we don't have a y-intercept, so much like in the problems that we just did back here, we're going to fill in for an x and a y. So we're going to find our y-intercept, aka our b value. So we're going to take this and we're going to pick a point. It doesn't matter which point. I always tend to pick the first point. So we're going to pick an x and a y. We'll pick that x and this y. It has to be from the same point. We could also pick point 2, but for easy purposes, let's just do that. So where we see this template, where we see y, we're going to plug in 4. We know what our slope is, negative 3/2, and then we're going to multiply it by x, which is 0, plus b. And this will help us find our y-intercept. Negative 3/2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus b is b. So I just found my y-intercept. So I take this template and now I can fill in for the last piece. Y equals negative 3/2 x plus 4. So I was able to write an equation in slope-intercept form when I was given 2 points. If I had chosen 4 and negative 2 as my x and y, I still would have gotten the same answer. Let's try another one together. So the first thing we do is find the slope. We want to notate these points just for our eyeballs. X sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Remember, the 1 means the first point, 2 means the second point. So when we say x sub 1, we're saying the x value in the first point. Y sub 1, the y value in the first point. X sub 2, the x value in the second point. Y sub 2, the y value in the second point. And we're going to use our equation for slope, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So our y2 value is 5 minus my y sub 1 value, which is 3, my x sub 2, which is negative 2, minus my x sub 1. So we're minus a negative 3. This, let's do this. This negative represents this negative. This negative represents this negative. My y value is my y value. My x sub 1 value is my x sub 1 value. So notice those double negatives. A lot of students forget the negatives and misinterpret it. 5 minus 3 gives me 2. Negative 2 plus 3 gives me 1. So my slope is 2. So I take that most general template. I'm going to fill in a piece. And now I got to find the y-intercept. Let's continue to fill in x and y for our template. So I'm going to pick the first point, which is my y value is 3 equals my m, which is slope, which is 2, my x value in my first point, which is negative 3, plus b. That's what we're looking for. 3 equals negative 6 plus b. We're going to isolate for b. We're going to get it by itself. There's a negative 6. We're going to add 6 to both sides. We get 9 equals b. So we can take that template and we can fill in the final piece. Y equals 2x plus 9. So here's a you try problem. I'd like you to pause the video, try this, try to write an equation in slope-intercept form that has that for a line that goes through the points negative 5, 2 and 0, negative 1. Pause it. Once you've got your solution, you can unpause it and look at the answer. So the first thing we're going to do is find the slope. We have y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. My y sub 2 value is negative 1 minus my y sub 1, which is 2. My x sub 2 value is 0 minus my x sub 1, which is negative 5. So negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. 0 minus negative 5 is positive 5. So I have my slope, which is negative 3/5. I'm going to pick a point. I again pick the first point, and I'm going to substitute that piece of information, all the pieces of information, the m, the x, and the y. And I'm going to solve for b. I'm going to isolate for b. So I get 2 equals negative 3/5 times negative 5. The 5 and the negative 5, we have a 5 in the denominator. We have a negative 5 in the numerator. Those are going to cancel. Negative times a negative is going to cancel, and that's going to leave me with positive 3. So I have 2 equals 3 plus b. Subtract 3 from both sides. Gives me a negative 1 for my y-intercept. And then I'm going to fill that in to finalize my template. If you have questions, please feel free to visit during office hours and ask some questions or email me with specific stuff. Thanks and good luck.